what I am talking about is file sharing, and especially file sharing back at the dawn of the print age. And the reason that I'm interested in this is because, wow, that's sitting up there for a while, that's cool. The reason that I'm interested in this is because we hear all this stuff about piracy, and often piracy, one of the common things said about is that it's used to stifle creativity. Well, I want to tell the story about a case where it enabled creativity and go to a period where everything new is old again. And so the case that I'm talking about is involving this guy, Christopher Marlowe, and his play Faust, arguably his masterwork, and how exactly the play Faust came about. So this has a lot to do with just the circulation of texts and the way that ideas spread. So basically it starts with Dr. Johann George Faust, who was sort of the rock and roll star of his day. Makes a deal with the devil, magic powers, tours Germany multiple times, starts to build up a reputation. He claims he can do all this cool stuff. And according to the legends, he either, at the end of his life, is claimed by the devils or is blown up in an alchemic experiment gone wrong. Either way, he has left an impression on the world. And the way that we know that he left an impression on the world is what we heard from the moral majority about him. So this is the Martin Luther, and a bad font, but basically where he says that Faust was the devil's brother-in-law himself, a man who is lost beyond all hope. So, like any good rock star who's been taken by the devil or blown up in an interesting way, he gets his own unauthorized biography. This is the Spies Faust book, which was produced after his death. It was an instant bestseller in Germany. Now, of course, this is telling you what not to do with your life. But within 6 years, it makes a transition from Germany to England and into Christopher Marlowe's play. Now, by the way, it took approximately 5 years for the first Harry Potter movie to come out from its publication. So this is not bad when we think about the fact that this is the 1500s. And here is the reason why. The printing press. So Mainz, Germany. Gutenberg invents the press. Mainz gets sacked. The printers flee to other countries. And printing spreads. But the problem is, once you get a press, you gotta keep it busy. Because if you don't keep it busy, that thing is just wasting money. So we go back to Martin Luther, 1514 or so, goes up, nails his 95 Theses to the door on the church in Wittenberg. Who pulls it down? A printer. And what does the printer do? He takes it back, he prints it, and then you know what he does? He doesn't give it away to anybody else. He sells it on the street because people want this information. And you know what happens? Another printer grabs one of those copies, takes it to his town, he prints it, and then sells it on the street. And we start to get something that looks a little bit like file sharing. These texts circulate from printer to printer across Europe. And so basically what happens with Faust, you've got a bestseller. Oh, I forgot to say, this is the earliest image of a print shop. Notice, devils. Piracy, even back then, not appreciated. The church wasn't happy about the printers because they were taking funds away from them, and authors were trying to figure out what to do. So anyway, the book, the Spies Faust book, ends up at the Frankfurt bookmark. And if you ever go to Europe, places like Amsterdam, you can still see these bookmarks today. And the people who go to these bookmarks aren't just people who want to buy books. They're other printers. I introduce you to the Napster of the 1500s. Printers would go from book fair to book fair, send agents out across Europe to collect books. And basically what they would do is they would look for whatever the bestsellers are locally and start to grab them up. So basically, somebody from England sends their representative, their printer's devil, by the way, over with his little book bag, grabs a copy of Faust. But the problem is that Faust is in German. And while we might have conversational German being able to be spoken, literate, being able to translate, that takes a university. So it goes back to a university town. We know that there was an English printer at this time who had an agreement with people at Cambridge to start to translate texts. Now, by the way, who was a master's student at Cambridge? Christopher Marlowe. And Marlowe falls, as far as we can tell, falls in love with the story of a man whose excesses, whose desires just overwhelm him and consume him. And he starts to translate the play. Now, the important thing here, and we know the play's been adapted, is this, is that the tragical history of Dr. Faust, the earliest performance that we're sure of happens in 1593. Marlowe is killed only a few months before. actually before the English translation of the book even comes out. So basically the entire thing here is Faust hanging out. The key thing about this is that Marlowe's problems, Faust's problem, was not, as Cory Doctorow and Tim O'Reilly like to say, piracy, it was obscurity. And print piracy allowed this all to happen. Thank you very much.